Hello, and today we're doing a webcast on jobs in the energy company SSE. I'm Georgia Jakes.
And I'm Thomas Hogben.
Today we're going to be talking to Colin Piddy, who works for SSE.
And don't forget, guys, that there's a chat box on the right-hand side, so if you've got any questions at all, please put them in now and we'll be able to get through as many as possible. So don't forget, ask questions and get answers throughout today's session.
Today we're speaking to Colin, who has worked for SSE for 24 years and is currently in charge of their operational engineering recruitment drive. So Colin, who are SSE and what do you do?
Hi there. SSE is currently the 29th largest company in the UK. In the UK, we employ around 20,000 people. There are three main parts to our business. The first of all is retail, where we supply 10 million homes in the UK with gas and electricity. So the second part is wholesale, and what that means is the generation that we use to supply these customers. So generation could be through oil or gas or hydroelectric power or wind power. Now currently we have 13,000 megawatts of generation in the UK, and to put that into context, that's enough to supply 5 million homes. The third part of our business is networks. That's a part of the business that I work in. In networks, we look after 130,000 kilometres of overhead lines and underground cables. You'll see these overhead lines dotted about the countryside on wood poles or steel towers. Now, again, those overhead lines and underground cables, if you put them around the world, they'll go around 10 times. What we have to do is we have to maintain these, refurbish them, replace them, look after them. When your power goes out in the middle of the night, we're the guys who go out and do that. So whether it's lashing with rain or 3 feet deep of snow, we'll go out in the middle of the night and we'll put your power back on. What we also do is we have to invest in our network. So over the next 8 years, we're investing £4.5 billion in our network. We're putting new infrastructure in there. That's new overhead lines, new substations. And because of that investment, we need a lot more young people coming into our business to work for us. And hopefully some of the people on the webcast today will be working for us in a few years' time.
So how did you get into working for SSE?
I started with SSE, as you said, 24 years ago. At that time, SSE was struggling to get engineers into the business, so I was sponsored through university. Once I finished university, I'm from Perth originally, I then moved up to Inverness. Started off as a trainee engineer. I spent 9 months going around different parts of the business. After that, I then worked in what's called a new connections business. So if people are building new houses or new businesses, they'll obviously need electricity, so we would put in overhead lines and underground cables to service those businesses and houses. I then worked in our maintenance department, maintaining all our overhead lines, underground cables in our substations, all our plant. I then did a bit of training, so I'd done training for our engineers for a few years. And then after that, I then moved into the management side about 10 years ago, and I've looked after different facets of the business across Scotland in the last 10 years.
Sounds like you really worked your way up then right from the beginning 24 years ago. For people today moving into SSE, what's the kind of paths out of school into it?
For kids that are in school just now, there are several paths into SSE as a business. They're what we call pipelines. There are three main pipelines just now. The first one is what we call a trainee programme, and for the trainee programme we're looking for 2 standard grades, any standard grades, and we're recruiting in July for that. At this point in time you have to be 17 years old to come into a trainee programme, so and we're recruiting 28 trainees across Caithness, Highland and Moray in July. When these trainees then come into the business, what we then do is we then have we'll take them in, we take them out on site. They'll do a bit of training at our own training schools. They get a mix of sort of on-site and off-site training. After that, then what will happen is then they'll work for ourselves full-time or one of our main contractors, but it's full-time positions into the company. So that's our trainee programme, that's our first programme. The second one is our apprentice programme. Now, again, we've taken sort of 40 or 50 apprentices on in the last few years within the area described, Highland and Moray, Caithness. For apprentices, what we look for is 4 standard grades at 3 or above, so that's English, Maths and a science or craft subject. So that's the qualifications you need for that. The recruitment for apprentice programme is every March. So once if you've got these qualifications, you then apply in March. What you do after that then is a 4-year apprentice programme. Start off at £9,000 a year. At the end of the 4 years, you're on £21,000. and then all your sort of travel and accommodation when you're away is paid for. That's for all our training programmes, you don't pay for anything. Our third programme is what we call a trainee engineer programme. Now again, what we look for that is we look for 3 hires. You need maths and physics at B and English at C or above naturally. What we then do is when we take these engineers, again the recruitment is always round about March, and again we've taken about 40 trainee engineers on in the last few years. What we then do is we'll then put you through your degree. We'll pay for all your tuition fees, all your travel, all your accommodation when you're at university, and you'll come back and work for us. So you tell that to your mum and dad, and they'll be biting my hand off for one of these. It's a gold-plated scheme. It's because we can't get engineers into the business just now. So that's what we call it, a degree level sort of trainee engineers programme. You won't pay for anything. Now again, for trainees coming into that part of the business, you start off at £16,500. At the end of 4 years, you'll have £30,000 and a car and progression to anywhere in SSE. What I will say is most of our senior managers and engineers within the company have come through the route, what we call from frontline staff. It's not about what qualifications you have, once you're in SSE, it's all about your attitude and who you are. What I say to guys who are working in the SSE just now is the best, advert you'll do for yourself is the job you're in. If you do well in the job you're in, you can do well in other positions within SSE, and that's what we look for. It's not all about your academic sort of qualifications, it's about people who are well-rounded, and that goes for a lot for sort of kids coming into school as well. If they're well-rounded, academic qualifications are important, but it's not all about that. It's about how you interact with other people, what you do outside schools as well. So it's not just about academia, it's make sure you're a well-rounded individual as well.
So you mentioned there about the training course, the first one that you mentioned. How long can people be expected to train for until they're qualified?
Like I say, in our trainee programme, the training's basically a year between our own training school. We have our own training school in Perth and a bit on site, and then you go full time on site. For the apprentice programme, it's a 4-year training programme, and you come out with an SVQ level 3, and again that's a mixture of college and on-site training with ourselves. We have a partnership agreement with UHI, University of Highlands and Islands. So just now some of the training's done in Perth, some's in Inverness, but a lot, if not all, will be moving to Inverness in the near future in terms of the actual training at the college. And for a degree programme, again it's a 4-year training programme, a mixture of, again, at university and on-site with ourselves.
So you just said there a lot of it will be moving up to Inverness. So as Inverness is in the Highlands, where else do you have offices in the Highlands that are available for people to work?
We have offices all over the Highlands and Islands, Moray and Aberdeen. Our main bases are Inverness, Elgin and Aberdeen, but we have a lot of satellite locations, so Huntly, Forres, Wick, Thurso, Brora, and plus we have a lot of what we call small temporary satellite locations actually out on site. So where our main works are, we'll have we'll set up base camps, and we could be there for sort of 2 or 3 years on site as well. We also have offices in Glasgow, Perth. At our Perth location, there are over 2,000 people work at our Perth location in itself. We have offices in Dublin, Belfast, the south of England. So there are lots of opportunities for people who are often a lot. I mentioned earlier on about people sort of progressing within the company. A lot of the people who have progressed to the top have done a lot of moving about, so they see different facets to the business and understand that. So it's a great way. There are always lots of opportunities for people that are willing to move within Scotland and the rest of the UK.
What about male and female split as well? It's engineering, I think, maybe is predominantly seen as a male kind of qualification, but in SSE, how does that work out?
You're right. I mean, the vast majority of our engineering staff are male. We do have a few females coming into the business. We have female electricians and fitters. We took our sort of first female on recently to work on our overhead network, but we need absolutely more. We need to break down that barrier for people to see, we have a lot of female engineers and graduates working inside in sort of office-based roles. We don't have enough. We absolutely do not have enough females coming into the business, and we need to break down those barriers for people to see it's a great career, regardless whether you're male or female. It's a great career for anyone wanting to come from schools into the business, and as I say, we have lots of opportunities for anyone wanting to come in the business in the next few years.
So obviously you take school leavers and people progress throughout the company, so is there quite a large age range within the business?
I mean, just now we'll take anyone from the age of 17 years upwards. Our apprentice programme, it's predominantly young people that come into it, but again we take what we call sort of more mature people into that apprentice programme as well, because again they can be well rounded and have a bit of sort of wealth of overall skills. But I mean, age is no barrier. In our company as well, we have quite a large age profile. And what I mean by that is, our engineers, the average age is quite high. Therefore, I mentioned earlier on, we're spending £4.5 billion on our network in the next 8 years. So we need a lot of engineers or people come into the business, to put that new infrastructure in place. Once that new infrastructure is in place, then what we have to do is we then have to maintain and look after that. So we need a lot of new people into the business to do that. And yet with our age profile being so high, there's a lot of guys going to be retiring in the next few years. So that's why we need a lot more people coming into the business. A lot of people are retiring. We've got a lot more people, infrastructure onto our network. So as I say, we need a lot more people coming into our business. And
sounds like there's a really good opportunity there for people to come in and work up to a high level salary relatively quickly with progression. Coming back to the university-based degree engineering programme, do you have specific universities that students can go to for that?
What we do is we've got a partnership currently with Aston University in Birmingham, and we're also looking at working with UHI as well in terms of a degree programme and moving a lot of that. Just now it's set up for Aston University in Birmingham. We do a bit of work with UHI in terms of degree programme, but we hope to move a lot more of that back to the UHI in the near future. But that's our partners just now in terms of our own degree programme. But obviously there are people that will go to other universities and do degrees and relevant sort of disciplines or skills, and they'll then come into our business. What they'll do is they'll just naturally apply through our own website for engineering jobs through that. So there's sort of two different fields you can come in through that.
So is the website the only place that people can apply for the jobs, or is there any other ways that they can apply?
There's several ways. Obviously on our website, SSE.com, what you'll find our current vacancies. What you can also do is people can upload their CV, and what we'll do is our recruitment team will then have a look at that, look at what your skills and experiences are. They know the jobs that we currently have on offer. And across SSE as a business, we have over 1,000 vacancies just now. That's across all our businesses, it includes customer service as well. But we have 1,000 vacancies just now. So you can upload your CV. So if there's nothing specific you think, or there isn't anything for you just now, they'll keep that in a holding area. And then when other sort of vacancies come up, they'll look at that. We work with Job Centre Plus. So I mentioned earlier on about a trainee programme just now. Job Centre Plus will work with them in terms of adverts as well. So upload your CV. Look on our website for any specific adverts, Job Centre Plus, or if you know people, or you know somebody who works for SSE, come and speak to them. Come and speak to us, and we'll see what we can do for you.
So what kind of tasks can graduates coming straight from school get involved with immediately then? What's the kind of the actual work that they're going to be doing?
What we normally do with most of our people coming into the business is we'll give them what we call we'll try and give them a rounded background to SSE as a whole. So we'll put a programme in place for them, and they'll go around each department. They might spend 2 weeks or a month, depending on the size of the department, and they'll go around all these departments. What we'll then do is we'll continually assess them. We'll ask the person's opinion as to what they might want to do. Once they've been around the departments, they might want to be office based. They might have a real might want to sort of work outside. If that's what they want to do, we'll take that into consideration, but we'll match their expectations and what they want to do, but what we need as well. So they'll get a flavour of all the different things. It gives them a broad knowledge and understanding of the business. We'll do that, and then we match people to the actual vacancies we have at the time. And also matching, where they want to be in terms of sort of geography as well. And we'll do that as best we can, and we'll never guarantee it. We'll do that as best we can as well.
So you mentioned there that there's jobs in offices and there is jobs working outside. What other range of jobs and what can people expect to be doing if they work for SSE? There
are a range of different things. Obviously, in terms of there are office-based functions, and that could be sort of clerical or desk positions. Outside, it could be any number of jobs. We have a lot of environmental sort of engineers working for us. There's HR functions, what we call sort of core functions as well, sort of human resources, finance, accountancy, all these sort of central functions as well. Predominantly the engineering side. Most of the people, it is an outside job. You'll be outside. Sometimes it's not great, as I mentioned before. The weather's not great. You're out at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. You get a phone call. Can you come out? The power's off. You look outside, and probably the last thing you want to do is get out your nice warm bed and get out. But it's a fact of life, for us. We would do that, and you get into the routine of doing that. But when you know somebody's power's off at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then it's a spur for us to get out there and make sure that person's, comes back on. So when they wake up in the morning, sometimes don't even know they've been off, and that's what we do.
I'd just like to take this opportunity as well to say to everyone tuning in that you can ask questions throughout. Just use the chat box on the right hand side and pop in a question, and we'll see if we can get as many of them answered as possible. You've had a great career right through SSE for a good number of years now. What's your kind of highlight? What's your favourite role that you've had throughout the organisation?
Probably about sort of 4 or 5 years into my career in Inverness, there was an opportunity to go to the Western Isles on a secondment for 6 months. And when the sort of secondment came up, I think the office quickly emptied and nobody really wanted to go. I thought it was a great opportunity for myself, and I ended up staying there for a year. But in quite a small community there, you had to be a jack of all trades. You had to do everything there. You had to know everything about the business, and that was a fantastic learning experience for me there. Ended up staying there for a year. Not long after that, I went to Orkney for 6 months as well. And I think, people have missed out on that, because that was a fantastic opportunity for me. The people were great, the way of life was fantastic, and it was, and I've made friends for that year there, which is probably about 18 years ago now. They're still friends to this day. So that was the best opportunity for me there. It was absolutely fantastic, and something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
So is there a lot of opportunities to travel within SSE?
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier on, even though you might be based somewhere specific in a role, in my previous role I looked after all the maintenance for the business in Scotland. So as a role, I would travel across all the different areas one day maybe in Aberdeen, the next day I was down in Dunoon, I'm back in Inverness, I'm across in the Western Isles. So you can travel within a certain function, and what you may be away 2 or 3 days a week, or dependent. Or there's great opportunities if you want to move somewhere permanently. Fantastic opportunities, and it suits some people, it doesn't suit others, and that's okay. We understand that. People may want to live in a certain location, but if you want to do that, then in terms of career progression, it's a fantastic move, and if you're prepared to do that.
I mean, how important is the energy sector to Scotland, especially in the Highlands?
Just now, there are currently around 15,500 people employed full-time in Highlands and Islands in the energy sector, and that's across different things. I mean, that includes ourselves. We have approximately 2,000 of those people. That could be renewable companies, building new wind farms, maintaining new wind farms. It could be at Dounreay with a sort of decommissioning a nuclear power plant. There are lots of different energy sectors out there. There's new wave technology coming on as well. There's the oil and gas sector as well. I mean, it is fantastic for the Highlands and Islands, and they're generally sort of high-paid, highly skilled jobs, and it's great for the community. And it's only going to get more important in the future. Like I say, we are really growing our infrastructure. Those numbers we've talked about for SSE are only going to grow in the near future. Great opportunities, full-time opportunities, for people coming into the business, and hopefully some of them will come from the schools, as I said before.
So obviously you started out at university and now you're working in management. So how easy would you say is it to progress within SSE?
What I would say is some of our staff, they start off a function, they may be a mechanical fitter or somebody working overhead lines, and they're quite happy to do so, and that's great, that's great, and we've got a bit of consistency there. But if you want to progress within SSE, it's up to yourself. What I say to the guys who work for me is the best opportunity you'll get to progress is within the job you've got. If you can show you can do a great job in the current job you've got, then what it does is it shows you can then progress to another job. So a lot of people progress from within SSE to other companies. Most of our senior managers and directors and senior engineers have come from the front line. It's not all about, once you're in SSE, it's not about academia, it's not about the qualifications you have, it's all about the attitude you show. If you can show a great attitude, great flexibility, great commitment, then that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for well-rounded individuals to come into the business and really it's up to yourself how you progress from then on. It really is about how you want to flourish as a person.
I mean, I was down in Perth and got to visit the offices down there before, and it really is a hive of activity there. There's things going across in all different kinds of industry, and something that there was a really strong point was the branding and the creative side to SSE as well. There's really there seems to be a real value in brand image and brand awareness from them too, and you have a nice department in there that puts across all the print and press stuff too. So could you talk a little bit about how it's not just engineers, but there's creatives as well involved?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier on, I mean, in our area in Perth, our office in Perth, are over 2,000 people work in one site alone. It's, I mean, it really is a big operation, and a lot of our core functions are there, and and that's fantastic. What I would say about SSE is we pride ourselves in being a great place to work. We're recognised by external bodies being a great place to work. We want people to be happy in their work. If I've got somebody who works for me and they're happy in their work, they're going to be more efficient, they're going to be more flexible, and that's what we're looking for. We pride ourselves in that. We pride ourselves in being a family. So when people come and work for us, that's what we want to be. We want to be a family atmosphere and want them to feel that they're valued and feel that they can, potentially got a job for life. Very few people when they come into SSE leave SSE. Our retention rates for people are very, very high, and there's a reason for that, and it's because we're a great place to work.
So obviously, as you have employees who work there for a very long time, what are your main employee benefits? What do they get out of working for you?
I mentioned earlier on about salaries for some of our apprentices and engineers coming in the programme, and salary is important, but there are what we call a lot of peripheral benefits to working for SSE. So for example, we'll pay into a pension for you, we'll give you paid holidays. If you're often sick, we'll still pay you. We'll give you discounted gas and electricity, and we'll give you discounted shares in the company, which is a fantastic scheme, so you then own part of the company yourself. We'll pay all your training, we'll pay all your accommodation, we'll pay all your travel, we'll buy you all your tools and equipment you need, all the clothes you need, for your work, we'll buy you those. And these are all important, and these are what we call the peripheral benefits. And if you give people those peripheral benefits, and it's expensive to do, all those things, provide those, for each one of our members of staff, but we recognise by doing that, they're far more likely to stay with us, they're far more likely to be happy at their work, and they're far more likely then to be part of that great place to work that I mentioned earlier on. And that's what we want. We want people to want to work for us, and that's why we provide all these benefits, which a lot of companies just can't do.
You mentioned at the start as well that it's not just about grades, it's about being a well-rounded individual and extracurricular activity as well. I mean, what kind of things are you talking about there? What's important? What
I mean by that is, if you take somebody coming in an apprentice programme, they need 4 standard grades. What we'll do is we'll have hundreds of applicants for our apprentice programme. We may have 30 vacancies, we may interview 60 people, and if I've got 2 people that come in there, one's got 4 standard grades and one's got 8 standard grades, that's only part of it. I want to know what that person does in their spare time. If that person says what I do in my spare time is I'm number 2 ranked in the UK at FIFA, and I've heard that before, then that doesn't interest me. What happens is these individuals, I want them in their spare time to do different things. I want them to be practically minded. If somebody comes in and says, well, I've got 4 standard grades, but what I do in my spare time is I fix cars or I fix bikes, that's absolutely fantastic. Somebody says to me, well, what I do is I go mountain climbing in my spare time. It's people that use their spare time wisely. They've got a part-time job, they work in a local shop at the weekends. They do a bit of charity or volunteer work. That's really, really important. And therefore, when you come in as an individual, there's a bit, in terms of your IQ, what qualifications you have. But I say that's only a small part of it. It's to be a well-rounded individual, and that's really, really important. You must have good all-round sort of social skills as well.
I think we're getting a good lot of questions coming in now from the audience, so thanks very much for that. We've got one here as well that's come in from one of the schools asking, would you employ someone that hasn't been to college?
Absolutely. I mean, like I say, 2 of our programmes just now, in fact all 3 of our programmes, our trainee programme just now, you need 2 standard grades to come into that. If you've got 2 standard grades, any standard grades, you can come and work for SSE. Our apprentice programme, 4 standard grades. You come and work for SSE, and then we'll put you through college as well for an SVQ. And our engineers programme, well, you need 3 hires, as I explained for that earlier on. But although we do take on people who have been to college and been at university and they come to SSE after that, the vast majority of people who come into SSE come in before they've been to college. And for a trainee programme, you don't go to college at all. What we're looking for there is somebody who can come in and then can go practically out on site straight away. And that's really what I talked about earlier, with sort of well-rounded individual earlier on. Our trainee programme, that's suited to them because it's about people who've got other skills, not about their intelligence or what qualifications they have. It's about them as a person, their skills, and taking them straight into that.
So there's a question here saying if someone had a medical complication, would they still be employed?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's no issue in terms of medical issues or disabilities. We took on a tree cutter a few months ago. As an aside, we have sort of 300 full-time tree cutters in our business, clearing a network of trees. This young guy's got type 1 diabetes, but it's not an issue for us. What we do is we take that into account and on board, and we'll work with you. Now we have to do certain things to make sure that, the guy's safe in terms of his day-to-day working environment. But he came for an interview, and as a well-rounded individual, he was absolutely fantastic. So as a company, we recognised that, and then we then took him on board and we manage with him the issues that he has. So there's no issues there in any way, shape or form.
So someone else has asked, what would make a good CV for your company? So what do you think that people should really include?
A good CV is selling yourself. Quite often for our programmes we have a lot of applicants, so it's about getting your highlights to the top, but there's got to be highlights in there. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's all about doing something in your spare time. There's a saying, that sort of work hard, play hard, and that's really important. So you work hard at school, you work hard doing other things as well. So let's say you might have a part-time job, you might fix things in your spare time, you're a member of different clubs. That's really important that you do things in your spare time and not just sit in front of the TV or play your Xbox or text your friends all the time. That is really important. So it's about getting these other things on your CV to tell us that you're that well-rounded individual that we're looking for, and that's really, really important. One thing I'll say is, if people want to get in touch with SSE or ask any more questions after it and they want to get in touch with myself via their school, they're more than welcome to do so. I can give them an email address, and if I get any queries through, I'll answer every one of them.
So what subjects would you recommend pupils to take for a job in SSE? Because you mentioned obviously for certain courses you only need a certain number of standard grades or hires, and you mentioned the hires you would like English and maths and a science. But what would you say the standard grades, what would you say are the best subjects to take?
As I say, the best ones to take in terms of an engineering discipline are, first of all, maths and English are important, and physics as well. So whether that's to come and work for SSE, maths, physics and English are important, or any other science subjects, or even if you want to go to college and do any other form of engineering, those are the ones that are important.
So you've mentioned previously about pay, and we've had a question about the rate of pay compared with other jobs. So first of all, what salaries would people expect if they worked in your company? Our apprentices start off at £9,000 a year. After the 4 years, they finish on £16,500, and then they progress within SSE after that. Our trainee engineers start on £16,500. After 4 years, they're on £30,000 and a car. Our trainee programme, for the first 9 months, it's minimum wage, but after that you then progress onto SSE pay scales, and after that it's up to the person how they progress. So we have people who have come in and they've been in the business 6 or 7 years, and after that they're in senior, engineer or managerial positions.
So you mentioned there that you've got a few targets set for the different amounts of roles that you need to fill for taking on people as well. So it was like just over 100, I think, in total from in each of the different schemes. We've got a question coming in. How do you intend to reach these goals? What's your kind of strategy for outreach to people?
Well, what we do is it's through events like this. We do a lot of careers events. In 2 weeks' time, we've another career event at the UHI where we'll be seeing people from the college there. So they've perhaps done a HNC or an HND, or they're just coming into the college. So we do a lot of careers events. We do a lot of advertising. We've got advertising on our website as well. So that's where we'll look for people. So say generally when we do advertise, especially for a trainee engineers programme, apprentice programme, there are a lot of applicants, hundreds of applicants for these. So it's really important, and you mentioned earlier on about a CV, it's really important to make your CV stand out, because if you're in a pile of 300 CVs and we're going to maybe look at 50 of these, it's really important to stand out, I've had a look at a lot of CVs and people have phoned me in for, perhaps feedback on it, and they've done some brilliant things, really good things, but they've been at the bottom of their CV. It's just small details like that. It's make yourself stand out right from the outset, right from the start. So that person, if they have done their Duke of Edinburgh, Gold Award, and they've got that, well, that's a really great thing. We'll put that right at the start. It's really important you sell yourself in the market. We get plenty of applicants in, but those are the avenues that we look through. We do.
And how big should the CV be?
I would say 2 pages is fine. We don't want War and Peace. We don't want, your life history, because I'm not saying that would put us off, but again, a natural thing to do is when you're looking through 300 CVs, you're not going to read through all of it. That's why I'm saying it's the first few things that are important. You'll often dish decide on a CV in the first paragraph or couple of paragraphs, whether you're going in the no pile or the yes pile. And therefore, that's why it's really important. I've said it before, if people want to get advice in their CVs, they'll obviously speak to their schools. If they're looking for a job for us, I've said this to people before, if you want to show us your CV beforehand and see what we think, we'll tell you. I've said that to people before, and quite often they don't do it, and I can't understand that, because we're offering them to have a look at your CV and change it about for you, or give you a bit of advice, and how you're going to sell yourself better. But most people don't do that. I don't know why that is. I can understand why it is, but if you want to do that, that's we'll have a look at that for you.
So obviously you offer quite a lot of help to people, and you said earlier that you get hundreds of applicants for the jobs, but around how many people actually would become employed?
It depends on the various stages. I think earlier on I said in the last few years, I think we've taken on 40 apprentices, 40 trainee engineers. We've taken on 21 trainees last year. We're taking on another 28 trainees starting from July. So, and that's in the sort of last 5 years. So probably we're generally taking in sort of 25 to 30 school leavers each year in this area.
So why did you choose to work with SSE then, right at the beginning?
When I was at school, one of my best pals who worked at that time in Perth was a big company called GA, General Accident. It was an insurance company, and he had a job there in the office. But what they did have was a sports area, and they had a snooker table. So that's where I wanted to go. I was quite bright at school, so I said to Mum and Dad that I'm going to work for the GA, and I was told by Mum and Dad, no in certain times, was I going to work for the GA just because I had a snooker table. So we then seen, my dad seen an advert in the paper for a sponsorship for hydroelectric. I'm not saying he made me put away for it, but I then sort of applied for the sponsorship programme to go through college, because it's quite an expensive business to go to university. I applied for it, and there was 170 applicants, and luckily enough I was chosen to do it. So we've all do it. I've got 3 children myself, and the last person, a child naturally wants to listen to his mum and dad, but I'm glad I listened to mum and dad at that point, because I got a great opportunity, I got a great degree, I was paid for it to go through college, and I've had a great career in my 24 years with SSE.
So do you have pool tables in the current SSE staff?
No, I said it was a great place to work, not a brilliant place to work. It's not. We're not at that stage. I'll maybe put it in the suggestion box, but we'll see.
So we've got a question coming in which is quite important. What time of year do you hold interviews? Do you do them all year round, or is there a certain time? Yeah, there are generally certain times. Our trainees, we are looking to recruit this July. People have to be 17 to apply for that. That's normally through Job Centre Plus. Our trainees come through, and both our apprentice programmes and our trainee engineer programmes are around about March. So they have just been passed, but it's around about March. What to do is
keep an eye on the website. They're well advertised in advance in terms of these times. Normally it'll come on, the actual advert, and it'll be on for 3 or 4 weeks, so it's quite a long lead time there as well. There'll also be adverts on the website before it to say it's coming on. So these are the general times of year. But what to do is, if people want to get in touch with us before then, you can always upload your CV onto the website at any point in time.
We've only got 10 minutes to go now, everyone, so if there's any last questions, please do send them on through. Another good question coming in here is, what kind of hours do people work in SSE a week? How many hours is it?
It depends. We have people who work, I would say, the normal 37 hours. A lot of our engineers and craftsmen, they have the option to work longer hours. We have a lot of work on just now, and that's an option that some choose and some don't choose. But what it also does, it gives them the flexibility to earn more money. So that's we have to sort of temper that as well with the hours they work. So we'll only let them work a set amount of hours over a 4-week period. But a lot of the guys have that option, so it's fantastic for them. So they may be on a basic salary of X, but they can then earn more money above that. At certain times of the year when we have sort of faults or storms, it's a completely different ball game. As an example, we had a big storm down in Argyll about 2 months ago. We were all down there for a week, all of our engineers, and in an area the size of, it was roughly sort of 40 miles, that's between sort of Inverness and Elgin sort of equivalent. We had 500 engineers in that area, and all of us were working, give or take, 18-hour days doing that. You have 500 engineers working 18-hour days. And again, it wasn't just knee deep in snow. The snow, we had drifts there that were sort of 10, 12, 14 feet high as well, and so there's a lot of logistical problems there as well. The roads weren't open, we had to charter ferries and helicopters to get our guys to the place, a real logistical thing as well. But so there are certain times when you work longer hours, and that's the sort of flexibility that I mentioned earlier on. But it's a great camaraderie, it's a great work spirit between the team of guys down there. But also you've got to recognise as well that obviously it's very cold at that time, a lot of snow. Our customers are off supply and we want to get them back on as quickly as possible. So.
And how does that work overnight? You said at the beginning we get a call out at 2 a.m. in the morning when a line's down. How does it work for someone that's moved into that line with the linesman?
What generally happens is we have what's called a standby rota. So we have certain people that are on standby all week. So when a customer's power goes off, what they'll do is they'll phone in an emergency number which goes to a call centre. They'll have a look at where that person lives, and what they'll do is they'll then phone the nearest engineer on standby, and regardless what time of the night it is, he'll then out of his bed, socks on, into the van and away to site, and he'll call a couple of his colleagues as well. So it doesn't matter what time of the day or night, what the weather is, we'll go out and we'll put your power back on.
There was quite a good question from the audience just now saying, would you ever consider employing someone who's 16 if they had everything you were looking for?
We have done in the past. When you take people on between 16 and 17, there are various other things you have to do. You really have to take into account the time they're allowed to work. A lot of times when we're taking sort of trainees and apprentices out on site, it's not a 9 to 5 thing, and you may be sort of an hour away, so sometimes you may leave at 7 o'clock in the morning and not get back till 6 o'clock at night. So we have to manage that a bit more. We can't let people of a certain age work more than 37 hours. And although we have done it in the past, and we're not saying we wouldn't do it again, it gives us certain logistical problems. What we find as well is, between 16 and 17, it's quite a long time to sort of mature as well. People mature a lot in that time, so don't be put off by that. Wait until you're 17. Give that time between your 16 and 17 to mature more as an individual. Get those well-rounded skills that you want. It's only a year in your life. There are plenty of years to be working, but use that time wisely. Absolutely.
Another really good question that came in too was, when you first started working for SSE, did you think you would reach as far as you have now?
I didn't, and probably certainly my managers at the time didn't, that's for sure. I'd been at college or university for 4 years, and the last thing I wanted to do was go back into studying and work hard. But eventually I realised that SSE is a fantastic place to work. I wanted to progress, for myself. I felt like I could progress, and I was given the opportunity to do so, and I did. And that's there for everyone in SSE to do that.
Another really good question coming in from the audience is, what is your main goal as a company? Because obviously you've mentioned that there's such a good atmosphere and you employ quite a lot of people, but what is the main goal of SSE?
Our main goal for SSE is to provide electricity to people in a sustainable and reliable way. That is our goal. We want to make sure people have their electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a week. That is what we're there for, and we do everything in our power to do that. It's important that we work safely. That is one of our main goals, to keep when somebody comes into work during the day, we want to put them back in the same way they came here. That's really important to us. Safety is our number one priority, and it's to treat customers as we want to be treated ourselves. Customer service is really important to SSE, and that's what we want to do. We will treat customers as we want to be treated ourselves.
Another good question that kind of relates to that too is SSE planning on expanding into any other kind of areas?
SSE as a company is always looking for opportunities. Over the years we've bought different companies in different sectors. Where we think there are opportunities for SSE to grow and it fits in with our current business model, then that's what we'll do.
So obviously we've not got a lot of time left, so is there any other advice that you can give anyone watching about employment in SSE?
There are probably several bits of advice. The main bit of advice I'd say is, and I'll probably sound like your teacher, your mum or dad here, you must work hard at school. That is the absolute priority. People, and I'm no different, what you want in life is you want a nice house, you want a nice car, you want to go on holidays, you want to buy the things you want to do. To do that, you need money. The most important thing is if you work hard at school, get some qualifications, get a good job, then you're far more likely to be able to do those things. And it's important to start, if you're not doing that, if you're not working hard, if you're not doing these things, peripheral things, round about your normal school work, doing things differently out of hours, now's the time to change to do that, because it's really, really important to do that, because you don't want to be left behind when your friends have got all these things and you don't. You have a far better chance to do that if you worked hard at school, and be a more rounded individual.
I think it sounds like setting off on the right foot is really key, a key message that you're saying there right from the get-go. I can ask, what did you leave school with when you graduated?
I'm just trying to think now. It was in those days it was O grades. I had 8 O grades and 3 hires. I had maths, physics and English, and it was enough to get into university at that time, and I was fortunate enough to, as I said earlier on, get a sponsorship to university from SSE.
And you mentioned the Duke of Edinburgh before as well. That's something that if you've done that, or you can do that now, that it would sit high on the CV as something that stands out. What other things are out there? What other things have you noticed on CVs over your career that really stand out?
What I like in somebody's CV is where they can demonstrate something practical or something different. So recently we've been looking at CVs for apprentices, and you have a quick look through it. And somebody says that they rebuild cars in their spare time. They do it with their dad, and what that demonstrates is a practical ability, and that's really important. Because a lot of our jobs are hands-on. It's a skilled labour, but it's it's in a hands-on environment. So if somebody can do that, that's really, really important. If you can do something practical, but use your spare time wisely. If it's not that, do something else, but do something.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for all the information. I think that's been a really interesting session for everyone involved, and thank you again for all of the questions that have come through. It's been really interesting for me just to hear about SSE and the opportunities out there. So thanks once again for all your questions, and if there's anything that anyone wants to ask, is there an address that we could that you could give out that we could reach you on?
Yeah, if you want to contact, what to do is you can contact myself via your school. It's colin.pirrie, which is PIRIE @sse.com. If there's any questions or queries, give me an email and I guarantee I'll get back to you.
And you mentioned as well that there were some events coming up too?
There's an event, I think, in 2 weeks' time at the UHI in Inverness, the college in Inverness, a recruitment fair there, of which we are part. So I think it's on the 16th of June, I just have to confirm that. But if anybody wants to come along to that, I'm not sure exactly what the context of it yet, but we'll certainly be there. I'll be there. So if anybody wants to come along, have a talk, then do that. I said earlier on, it's important that to do something different. If you're not sure, get in contact with me. I'll do my level best to help you.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. And and as everyone's saying, just get working on your CV and work on those extracurricular activities and you'll set yourself up well. So thanks very much again for joining in, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.